Greetings, Glitter Gang, and happy Thursday. Welcome back to Kathryn Scraps Live. My name is Kathryn, and today we are continuing our series, Crafting Without a Net, the Vintage Staples album. Basically what I've been doing the last few weeks on the channel. This is a free project, a live project. All measurements are being given for anyone to enjoy. There is a YouTube playlist if you are watching this as a recording on YouTube to find the other parts. All right. So what is this album about? This album is we took staples that I had in my craft room, things like tags, things like paper bags, things like cellophane bags, things like file folders, and coin envelopes, library pockets, all that sort of stuff. And what we are doing is we are making an album out of it, all of it. And as I'm going through, I am showing you how, if you don't have the specific staples that I have, how you can make them yourself. So last class, we focused a lot on this file folder pocket, which turned out pretty awesome, actually. It has a little jewelry cord closure to keep things from sliding out of it as you flip the pages. And we've got, journaling spots and photo mats loaded up inside it. You can put memorabilia. You can put ephemera. You can put whatever, and photo wallets, etc. And we did finally figure out how to make a pocket folder, file folder, with these holes, with eyelets on all of the parts, which we struggled with, but we did eventually get it done with the big bite. And so we'll see. But like I said, if you're wondering how do I make this or any of that, check the playlist on YouTube, or if you're watching in the archives, of course, check the other videos in the folder to see them. All right, now I had clipped this to the back of this because my plan was to decorate this and put a tag back there at the start. And then I also saved this template. So Past Kathryn was actually pretty useful. I'm going to go ahead and stick my clothespin on the template so I don't lose the template thinking it's a scrap. And then I still have my gaffer tape out, which is what I used to close this cord. So there we are. So, okay, welcome. Today is June 2nd. It's the first Thursday of June. But today we are going to be discussing our May book club book, and that is because last Thursday I was super busy. I had family in town for my sister's wedding. So we didn't discuss it last Thursday. Normally we discuss book club the last Thursday of the month. So the book we're going to be discussing today is The Lager Queen of Minnesota by J. Ryan Stradle, who is a dude, I have learned. The book was written by a man. That kind of surprised me. I don't know why, but whatever. Maybe it's because it's everyone in the book pretty much is a woman. But anyway, The Lager Queen of Minnesota. He actually has an explanation in the afterword of the book as to why all the people in the book are women. Which I did think was kind of interesting. Maybe we'll talk about that later. When this is on the screen, that means we are talking about the book and that there will be spoilers for the book. So if you ever plan on reading The Lager Queen of Minnesota in your life and you don't want to be spoiled for the book, then just mute while that's on there. And I promise I won't give any measurements while that's on the screen. Okay? All right. So there's that. The book for June is Deacon King Kong by James McBride. I read a book by James McBride last year, which is 2021, which ended up being one of my favorite books of 2021, which was The Good Lord Bird. I don't know much about this book other than the premise is the deacon at the church kills somebody one day, and then, it's just kind of about the aftermath of that. But I think it'll be complex. The Good Lord Bird was pretty complex, so, we'll see. But I haven't read any of the books this year, so these are all based on recommendations for books that are good for book clubs. So we shall see. So Alrighty then. Okay. So, the Lager Queen of Minnesota was not what I was expecting exactly. I mean, it kind of was and it kind of wasn't. Excuse me for coughing. I also did go see this. That was the thing that happened during the break between classes as well. So, if we finish talking about the book, maybe we'll talk about that. All right. So I had clipped this into the book because as a reminder that I wanted to decorate it, put it on the back of this, and then make a tag to go in it. So that's where we're going to start. Once again, I did give instructions on how to make all of these staples, including, in fact, this is the one I made. This is not the one from Seven Gypsies. So this is the one that I made. So there are videos on how to make these as well. All right, so first things first, going to do some measuring to find out which size I'm using. So this is the 3.5 by 5.5 is what this is. So I need to make the paper 3.25 by 5.25. And then this, I think, is 1.25. Yeah. So the punch is 1.5 for the paper. So I need a 1.5 inch circle punch. Alrighty. Perfect. Okie dokie. All right. So greetings to everyone. Let me say hi to the group. Welcome to Gretchen, who was the first person to say hello, and to everyone in the Glitter Gang, of course. Carol Joan, welcome. Happy Glittery Thursday to you. Kathryn, happy Thursday. Melanie is getting ready for a scrapbook retreat. I hope that you have so much fun on your retreat. Sandra is also getting ready to go to a scrapbook event. Wow, I hope you have fun on your scrapbook event, Sandra. Congrats. Judy is ready to learn about beer brewing today. That's right. That's right, because the one thing that you come out of the Lager Queen of Minnesota understanding is lager. So, or it's certainly, I feel like I understand beer way more than I did going into it. I think I've mentioned this before, but beer makes me sneeze, so I don't really drink beer. I'm not a beer person, and and it's no great loss to me because I've never enjoyed particularly the taste of any beer I've had. So I don't feel like I'm missing anything. But, you know, there was enough explanation of the different types of beer and sort of the different flavor profiles of beer that I thought that with the craft brewery explosion, there's probably a beer for anyone. You know, there's probably beer for people who don't think they like beer. So, but, you know, am I going to go try and find my beer? No, because at the end of the day, it still does make me sneeze. So, and I don't know if I'm allergic to hops or if I'm allergic to wheat or what, but well, I'm probably not allergic to wheat. I probably would sneeze if I ate bread then, right? So it's probably the hops, but we'll see. We'll see. But it was interesting. I thought that the author did a good job of talking about the beer itself and the brewing process and how long it takes and all of that sort of stuff. Happy Thursday to Judy and Donna. Candy, hello. How are you? Martha, hi. Welcome. Nice to see you. Pat, good afternoon. All right. Okay. So, the German grapefruit beer, is that Hefeweizen? I do actually think that there is a kind of German grapefruit beer that Mr. Lifeguard likes. So, you retired and moved to Orlando, so you're getting more YouTube lives. Congrats on your retirement. Enjoy yourself. Enjoy yourself. Okay. All right, so we're going to find some pattern paper that looks good on the back of this here. That's step one. Step number one. All right. want something like this. We only need one piece of paper because we're not going to be able to see the back. I actually think this is going to work out pretty nicely. So what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to cut it, but I'm going to cut it to 5.5 by 3.5 first. And then I'm going to kind of trim it to get like everything centered. All right. Ultimately, I want to end up with 3.25 by 5.25. All right. And then this is pretty close to centered, so I'm just going to cut like a 1/16 of an inch off the bottom, and then 3/16 of an inch off the top. Should get me pretty close to what I want. Yeah, close enough. All right, there we go. So mostly I'm just trying to get the design centered so that I'm not like halfway through one of these diamonds on one side and like halfway through this yellow section on the other side. That's why I cut it that way. So if you're wondering why I was cutting it that way, that's why. All right. So now that I've got it cut that way, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of put it into place on the front where I want it. And you can go ahead and clip it if you don't want it to scooch around. Then I'm going to flip it over and I'm just going to mark where the hole is. Okay. All right. Then after I've done that, just gonna take a larger piece of tape. Oh, that was so fun, Martha. It really was. We did have such a good time. My sister and I were actually just talking about it today as well because she was updating her resume and including some of the work that she did from that on the resume. And so we were reminiscing about it today as well. It was such a great time. Definitely. All right, so then I'll finish my taping. All right, so now I can see through the tape my circle that I drew. So I can frame that with my 1.5 inch punch so that I punch out, you know, like 1/8 of an inch collar around it. But if you can't see through your tape backing, you can just go ahead and just peel the tape off and you'll be fine. All right, so now I'm going to ink. I'm using brushed corduroy throughout this album. It goes well with these papers. And then I was thinking about old school scrapbook things and art things we can include, and I found in my room, let me go grab it. I found like a bin of charms. So maybe we'll stick some charms on some things. That's kind of old school. All right, so here are some charms. These are charms I found. All right, so I've got keys. I've got like gear hearts. I've got these corner things, which I might put on the corners of the book, because I do have, oops, I do have 4 of the gold ones. So maybe when we do the cover, we'll use these. And I have like clock parts and brads and things. I've got all kinds of little things in here. Little, like even little chains and things. So maybe we'll, you know, think of something. I don't think I want anything like this fancy, but it's still cool. I actually don't know how to get it open, so. So anyway, let's see. Ooh, this camera's fun. And what's this? Oh, this is a telephone. Well, I definitely like the camera better. Let's see if we can figure out a way to attach the camera. All right, yeah, let's just commit to the camera. Okay. All right. Okay, so we've got this. And this is going to go, you know, on here like so. So I'm thinking maybe what we do is find a way. Do I want the camera to just be hanging like this? Or do I want to put this chain somehow like around? Of course, it's in a knot. Uh-oh, buffering. I have no dropped frames. My stream health is excellent. So both my broadcasting software and YouTube think that I'm good. I mean, so it could be like just YouTube. But we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. I think I actually am untangling this. Wow! Look at, okay. All right, so what I really want is if we can kind of wrap this around here. So that it's kind of like so. And the only question is, you know, what's the best way to do this? And I'm thinking it's probably to wrap it around both of them so that it's on the back of the pocket, so that when it gets attached, you know, behind the pocket, which is stronger. I feel like we need a little card on here as well, though. So let's take a look and see what we've got. We do have some little cards here. All right. And we have these cards as well. And also these. All right. So almost surely there's something in the scraps for us. All right. Well, if it does not improve, let me know. Unfortunately, that does, you know, I can try restarting, and then if that doesn't fix it, then, you know, unfortunately, it just kind of is what it is. Hopefully the technology overlords will be nicer to us. Okay, so go ahead and leave those. I know, maybe the internet is just having an off day. This is kind of interesting. One of the ephemera pieces that they used when they created this paper collection, and again, there's nothing in this project that's newer than 2012. Out of gas. Out of gas. Relatable. Relatable, unfortunately. So here's what I'm thinking. Maybe what we do is we hang this from one of these brads, or we put a brad through this camera and hang the camera like from this piece. Okay, so I'm going to summarize without spoilers, the Lager Queen of Minnesota, because I do think the book's description is a little bit different. The way that the book's presented, it kind of sounds like that, like, there's a family farm and the dad just out of nowhere decides to leave it to only one of his children, and then that child turns it into a successful beer business, but the rest of the family never speaks to her again, until she has like a granddaughter who's into beer. And just something about the way that the back was written, I just thought like she was going to take this granddaughter or great niece or whatever under her wing and teach her about beer, and it was going to be about like family drama and then whatever. And I mean, it is like, that's not a lie. I don't know. It just felt like a misrepresentation of what we got. Because this book was quite, I guess, darker in some ways than I thought it was going to be. Like, I honestly thought it was going to be something like the dad not wanting to divide up the family business and picking the child he thought was most competent to run it, and that's just not the case. Now, Is that exactly what the back said? No. Is it my fault I interpreted it that way? I guess, but I don't know. I felt misled by the back of the book. Like, I thought it was going to be more like Succession or like a juicy family business drama, just that the family business was beer. But it was more like, just, isn't it so hard to be a woman? Just like, it was so, the bulk of the book was about people living in poverty. You know, I don't know. It just, I don't know. It just felt misrepresentative to me. Like, I was expecting juicy family drama. That's not what I got. I don't know how all of you felt. It was more just sad than like juicy family drama. All right, I'm looking for something to stick the like camera to, maybe. Something for the camera to hang off. To add additional, I guess I could use one of these posts. What I might end up doing is using one of these. Do I think that this is gonna hold? I don't like the way that looks. Maybe it's the mixed metals that I don't like. All right, so I'm just gonna grab myself a little I need a plier, which I do keep up here, a set of pliers. All right. Okay. You came apart, now you don't want to go back together? All right, so I'm going to use one of the brads that I just have so many of. And then I'm going to go ahead and pierce this. And I'm going to put the loop through the brad legs. So there's one leg on either side of the loop. So the loop is like pinched in the brad. And then I'll set it. And I'm going to set it on a diagonal. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to go ahead and add tape to the back of this. and stick it to the piece. All right, and unfortunately I just have to kind of hold it while I tape it because I can't lay it on my desk because, you know, there's something on the front of it. I mean, I probably could lay it on my desk if I thought about it, but. All right. Okay, so the premise of the book is there's a man, he has 2 daughters and a farm. And he has one daughter who's good at one thing, and that is making pie. And then he has another daughter who's good at basically everything, but there's only one thing she wants to do, and that one thing she wants to do is make beer. So this causes a split in the family over the inheritance between the 2 sisters. And one of the sisters is very wealthy, and the other sister basically lives in poverty not her whole life, but certainly she struggles for a huge chunk of her life. Like, it's never financially easy. And then towards the end is living in poverty. Okay. So that's the basic premise of the book. The premise is that there's this brewery angle. So one sister is a brewer, and then the other sister's granddaughter is a brewer. They live in Minnesota, and it starts well before the craft beer phenomenon, when, you know, beers were really limited to, you know, what Budweiser was selling, or largely limited to what Budweiser was selling. Like, now you can get any kind of beer you can imagine. Like, I was just looking at what kind of, you know, odd beers were available at my Publix, and here are some of the ones. I'll read you some of the ones that I found at my Publix that I thought were kind of interesting. I didn't buy any of these, but these are just ones that my store has. Okay, so we have, but yeah, they had like all kinds of interesting stuff, like I'm just trying to find the thing that I saved. Okay, so they have this beer called Purple Haze that they recommend serving with salad or fruity desserts, or chocolate. But I found lemonade beers, grapefruit beers. They did have Belgian white ale, which is something that comes up in the book as well. So there's all kinds of stuff. How's everyone doing? I just want to make sure you're all still with me. It sounds like everyone is having problems. And I just want to make sure people still want to continue the show this afternoon and continue crafting and discussing the book, or do you want to come back tonight and hope the internet is better? Because we can do either. It's fine. So just let me know, everyone. Just let me know, because we can cut this short. If it's not working out. Okay. All right. So it sounds like everything is good. All right. Okie dokie. Okay. So here's where we are. So we've got our thing done. Got our little charm. Fun, fun, fun. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and attach this, and then we will make a tag while we talk about the book in a more spoilerly fashion. So I'll put the little warning up on the screen. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and add tape to this. There was no class last week, Mary, because my family was in town for my sister's wedding. So that's why. So we were doing all kind of running around town and such. All right. So I'm just going to trim the tape. It was wonderful. Well, when you're sick, it is all about you. It is. I do have a photo my brother took while the photographer was taking photos. So all right, so let me find the photo of the two of us. All right, so let's see if I can turn the brightness up. I'll turn the brightness all the way up. Hopefully you can see it, but there we are. Everyone looking cute. All right. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get this stuck down to the book, and then we'll work on the tag while we talk about the book in more detailed spoilery fashion. Okay, so the first thing that surprised me about the book was that I was really expecting that the rift in the family to have been over, this was the father's wishes, and one sister was following the father's wishes, even to the detriment of the other sister. But that is like not what the story was. One sister is like definitely the villain of the tale. And one of the things that surprised me about the study questions for the book is whether or not Helen is a sympathetic character. And like, there are some things about Helen's life as written in the book that could have been extraordinarily sympathetic if she wasn't totally written as a villain the whole thing. Like, for example, her struggles with, like, you know, she's basically totally ahead of the curve on ale, right? That she's like this genius ale maker before anyone cares about ale. And in order to compete as a beer company, she can't make the beer she wants to make. She can't make the beer she's good at making. She has to make a light beer. And she does, in fact, like, make the best tasting light beer in the history of the universe or whatever. And that they have a ton of success off of that for a really long time. But she has her like dream or her artistry ground out of her because of, you know, what she has to do to succeed. But it's like, That all would have been fine if the family business had been a brewery and she had just been trying to keep the dad's business alive, you know, even if it meant like hurting the rest of the family. But again, that's just not what happened, because like the idea that the dad just on his own one day woke up and decided to give the money to Helen that's not correct. I mean, she definitely engineered that situation completely and totally. You know, and then she had ample opportunities to make it right. She knew it was wrong. Her husband knew it was wrong. It bothered her husband his whole life. We know that from things that Helen thought after her husband died. And then even at the end, she still didn't make it right, because she should have given her sister $6.25 million. But she gave her $1 million and instead, because she gave her $20,000 for every year that they, you know, that she had to live in poverty while Helen was rich. But she sold her business, the business that she wouldn't have had if she hadn't taken this money from her sister or engineered the taking of this money from her sister, for $12 million. So if she really wanted to make it right, she should have given her sister half that money. You know, like, if he wanted Helen to be super sympathetic, I don't think he wrote her right, I guess, is what I'll say about that. I don't know what you thought about whether or not Helen was super sympathetic or not, or whether or not you felt Helen was responsible. I mean, the dad is also responsible. The dad also sucks. But like, you know, Helen could easily have talked her sister, I'm sure, into investing her half of the money into the brewery, and they both could have been rich, you know. But Helen was so self-obsessed that she just, and completely self-obsessed always, you know, where she couldn't even let her sister make pies or whatever. Like, there's that whole thing with the pie for the fair. So yeah, I don't think, yeah, here's the way it's phrased in the topics for discussion. The decision made by Helen and Edith's father to leave the family farm entirely to Helen changes each sister's life forever. Although she's the beneficiary of that unfair decision, do you believe that Helen is a sympathetic character? I mean, I didn't find her sympathetic at all. You know, because everything that made her miserable, she did to herself. Like, and I didn't feel sorry for her. I mean, maybe I'm just like super cold-hearted. Yeah, she never paid her sister. And like they talk after the husband dies, you know, she's thinking back on all the times that her husband was like, well, now we should give her money. Now we should give her money. Now we should give her money. And Helen's always like, I've got a plan. And then she remembers that argument they had where the husband's like, well, if you have a plan, I'd like to hear it. Because even the husband doesn't believe that she ever intends to make this up to her sister, you know. And then her sister talks about seeing that ad in the paper where Helen was basically like, it's not my fault. And it's like, it is your fault, Helen. Because even if the dad had made that decision completely in a vacuum and not been manipulated by you, Helen, you didn't have to take the money. You could have shared it anyway. So yes, it's your fault. You know? So it is your fault. So yeah. So yeah, I don't think she, I mean, I don't think she was meant to be sympathetic. If she was, it was a fail on my end. It was a fail on my end. Like, even the whole like gesture at the end with the $1 million, I found completely insufficient. Completely insufficient. So, all right. Okay, so let's make a tag for this. So this is, the pocket is 3.5 by 5.5. So let's make a 3.25 by, I think 3.25 by 6 tag. And I'm just going to go ahead and make it out of the, this craft paper. And I know I have some scraps. Yeah. Oh, I actually just have tags is what I have. Maybe I have scraps somewhere else. All right, I guess I don't have any scraps of this paper. That's okay. I can just, that's fine. I think I'll make a tag kind of styled like this tag though. So yeah, that's the first question in the study questions or the discussion questions. And I just, no. No, I didn't find Helen to be sympathetic. Like I said, she could have been sympathetic. You know, but she wasn't, she was not, there were certainly things that we could have felt sorry for her for had she been written less selfishly. But when you're the complete architect of your own demise, it's really hard to feel sorry for you. Okay. I mean, I think even the way she treats Agatha and the way she refuses to make changes to her beer, even if it would mean she could make the kind of beer she's wanted to make her whole life, and how that leads to the downfall of her business, just felt like, well, that's, I mean, I don't know what to tell you, but I feel like you brought that on yourself. So, yeah. Okay, so I could do a standard tag out of this. Is that catching on something, or is that really just how far it sticks out? Yeah, okay. So we could do a dark brown tag. That's one thing we could do. Or if we wanted to make like a bigger version of this, we could do it out of the craft. I kind of like the idea of doing one like this, so let's go ahead and do it out of the, or not the craft, the cream. All right, so let's make it. Judy said that she had 3 brothers and she had 4 sons, so the family dynamics involving like 2 women are outside her wheelhouse. That's interesting. Because we have my sister and I, I just can't imagine treating her like that. You know what I mean? I just really can't. So, I mean, a betrayal on that scale. And I get that my sister and I are really good friends and these 2 are not. And that's largely because of, Helen's personality disorder. But still, goodness. All right, so I'm going to use my tonic scoring tool to put that little, the little notches in it, the fold line. Well, yeah, Edith is also not a role model in the sense that, Edith, I mean, what to say about Edith? Edith never stood up for herself, and her life probably could have been different if she had stood up for herself more. However, I don't know, given the family dynamics, like who would have taught Edith to stick up for herself? This is the 1-inch one. I think it's a little bit, I'm going to try the 1/2-inch one first and see if I like the 1/2-inch notches. So like at some point the mother, is talking to Helen about how she should not try and steal or not try to win the pie contest, right? And she literally cannot explain to Helen why it would be hurtful to her sister for her to win the pie contest. Because Helen cannot comprehend caring about anyone more than herself. And so finally the mother's just like, just don't do it or else, so just don't do it or else. Okay, so I'm going to, and then when Edith does win the pie contest, she shares the ribbon with Helen, because she used Helen's berries that Helen had been preparing to use in a pie that she was going to try and win the pie contest with, right? And so she tells, she's grateful to Helen. And Helen's just like, oh, my sister's such an idiot. So, like she literally cannot comprehend about caring about anyone or anything more than herself. The only reason, like, she marries her husband is because she wants his brewery. Like, and, we're talking about a time when a woman probably couldn't have started her own brewery, not without some kind of fortune, So, like I said, there was a way she could have been written to be sympathetic, where, she tried and tried and tried and then just, like, got beaten down by life and whatever else. But she just wasn't written that way. She never, ever tried anything other than just using everyone and manipulating everyone around her. So, that's the only thing she ever attempted to do. She never attempted to do it a different way. And that's ultimately what makes her unsympathetic, More so than... okay, so now what I want to do is, more so than her circumstances, like I said, under the circumstances, she could have been sympathetic, but any way that she could have been made sympathetic, the writer wrote it away from her. Okay. But yeah, Edith also didn't need to be such, like Mary said, the giving tree. Like, one of the things that the giving tree is criticized for nowadays is that the tree doesn't have any boundaries. And that, at a certain point, when people are literally eating you alive, destroying your body, you can say no. You can say no. So that's one of the modern critiques of the giving tree, is that you don't have to be sacrificial to the point of your own death. You don't have to be. Like, you can be, I guess. Like, people do give their lives for other people. That's the thing that happens. But we consider that to be, like, massive heroism, great heroism. I'm looking through my stamps for something that looks like the bottom of a ticket. And I have something that I think will work. Just want to see if it's the right size. And so Edith definitely, aside from this part where it says December 25th, I think it works great. So I might just put something over where it says December 25th. This is from the Basic Gray and Hero Arts Stamp Collection, 25th and Pine. 25th and Pine. Oh my gosh. Well, they were not cut. So these two stamps were stuck together. That's why it tore. Not a great showing for Basic Gray / Hero Arts here. All right, so what I'm going to do is push it back together before I put it on a block. So yeah, Edith, Edith is she's the opposite, right? Because she's, Helen's never cared about anyone more than herself, and Edith has never cared about herself more than everyone else. That's kind of like where they are with each other. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this on a glass mat, and then I'm just going to put, I'll put a Post-it where I don't want there to be any ink. All right, hopefully we'll get a good stamp out of this. All right. Okay, not too bad. Not too bad. It definitely looks like a ticket. So I'm just gonna use the ink that's still on the corner of the stamp here to kind of fill in the corners where there's no ink because of the curve. All right, there we go. Perfect. Okay, so despite the fact that the stamp was completely destroyed, we did okay. We did okay. All right, so yeah, but like the fact that Helen rather, cared so little about Edith, she didn't even know for sure that her kids had died. Like there's a point in the book where Helen's like, I think I heard she had an adult child that died or something like that. And it's like, really? You didn't even like Google it? Like, how, what's the matter with you, you psycho? Like, ew. So, like, I just could not believe that, like, she wouldn't even know for sure. So it's whatever. I mean, she was such a villain, man. So anyway, the author was asked why all the brewers in the book, not all the brewers, but you know, most of the brewers in the book are women, right? And he said that's because when he researched the book, which he took like 18 months, he interviewed brewers all over the country, craft brewers, and talked to them and whatever, and he only ever met like bearded white guys, you know, like him, like he said, people that looked like him, bearded white guys, and that you know, he just wanted to kind of like put what he thought should be out into the world or something like that. Like he said that he believes that writing should like be about manifesting what you think should be, that writing can be about that, and that's what that was about. Which is, I don't know if he just couldn't find any women brewers or if there really aren't any women, like women are that excluded from the industry. I don't know. But that is what he said, why he chose to write about women. So, I mean, he can write about whoever he wants. But I did think that was kind of interesting. Okay, so just, all right. So now we've got like this. So the question is, what are we going to put at the top here? I'm going to go ahead and, I have some. All right. So do we want to put, some kind of scraps on here? Or what do we want to do? So the next question is, before Diana was hired full-time at Heartlander, she was stealing from garages to help make ends meet. Did this criminal behavior affect how you felt about Diana as a character? If not, how was she able to redeem herself, and what contributed to her evolution? I think that's kind of phrased really interestingly, because what it says, did this criminal behavior affect how you felt about Diana as a character? If not, how was she able to redeem herself? Meaning, if you weren't affected by this criminal behavior, what did Diana do to make you not affected by it? But I will say that I actually just only had sympathy for Diana, you know, because when she's a thief, she's like 16 or 17. Like, she's not even an adult. And her life has been horrible. And she doesn't have a lot of choices besides what she's doing. I mean, they're already on whatever government assistance they can be on. Her grandmother's already working like 3 jobs. She's working a job. The people at the job are paying her under the table so she doesn't have to pay taxes, and she can keep a little bit of her money and not lose her assistance, and they still can barely survive. And, you know, a huge part of how they're surviving is because her grandmother works at restaurants, so they can get food from the restaurants. So, I mean, she was only sympathetic to me. Even her, like, caustic attitude was like, well, what do you expect? You know, like, I mean, just, none of that really made me feel negatively about Diana at any point, I guess. If it was supposed to, and she was supposed to redeem herself, I just didn't feel that wasn't a journey that Diana and I went on, I guess. So. Was anybody bothered by Diana and then came around to her, or did everyone else feel like she was sympathetic throughout? Because, like, the second Diana has the opportunity to make enough money to earn an honest living, that's just what she does. You know, it's not like she, you know, turned down opportunities to do that. Yeah, it's not like she had opportunities to not steal and then chose to steal anyway. You know, it's just, she just had a really sucky set of circumstances. All right, do we think that's cute, or does it really need to fill in like the whole thing? What do we think? Mary says that she thought it was interesting that he made her so poor without any specifics. I suspect that there are some readers who would find that situation unbelievable. Well, and I wonder if when the book was written, if it was more unbelievable than it is now. You know, because, like, people, I think, especially now with everything that's going on, it's so much more believable that you can, that you just can't survive even with 3 jobs, you know. Like, for me, I didn't even question it. I was like, yeah, you totally can't survive even with 3 jobs in some places at some times in some circumstances. And I wonder if he didn't spell it out more because he was just like, oh, she's poor. And then he didn't, like, do that research. Like, if he put more research into the beer than he did into what it's like to be living in poverty, to be the working poor. But, like, today, for example, there's not a city in America, not one, where you can afford the average apartment on the minimum wage. There's nowhere in this country you can do that. There's nowhere. And there's a book called Nomadland out now about people who live in trailers because that's how they can afford to live working at Amazon and other giant warehouse fulfillment centers. And it's about these communities of people who live in trailers, who like just live in their trailers in the parking lots of these warehouses. And then, you know, if they can move on to other warehouses if the work dries up at one or something like that. And I was just like, so, you know, I mean, it's so dire. It's so dire for so many people that I didn't even question it. But I wonder if, as you say, Mary, there were people who did totally question it, who did think it was just like that he was just being outrageous with how poor he made her and that this isn't real. This doesn't happen, you know. I don't know. I mean, I totally believed it. Totally believed it. So, all right. I don't know what to do with this. Well, it didn't sound like it to me, Mary. Because Mary said that she was the lowest level of the theft ring, and like she stole the stuff, but her cousin was the pawn, or the fence, I guess, or passed it on to the fence. So who knows if she even got a fair share of the take? Yeah, I mean, who knows? And you know, most people who steal, you know, there's white collar crime, of course, and that's definitely about greed. But a lot of the type of crime that she was engaged with is common only in impoverished areas, right? Where it's desperation that causes it. So, you know, a lot of this type of crime is caused by desperation. All right. So anyway, so yeah, I never questioned her circumstances at all. So I just don't know, you know, who may have or not. But she was always sympathetic to me. You know, all of her problems. I mean, losing your parents at her age, and then growing up in poverty. You know, none of it was a stretch, I thought. Especially because the Midwest has really been kind of quite hollowed out of jobs. So since the 90s, really, so at least. Okay, so they're talking about how this author has two books, The Lager Queen of Minnesota and The Kitchens of the Great Midwest. And they're both full of characters who've developed special intimate relationships with food and drink. How would we describe Helen's lifelong relationship with beer, and how is it different from Diana's or Edith's? You know, and I think what's interesting is, you know, Diana, beer is just that's just her path out, right? That's her path out. Helen, you know, beer is definitely her passion. Like her whole education is around beer. I just don't know what to do with this tag. I think I messed up by putting that thing on there, but we'll see. So I think I'm just going to put this on the back of it just so that it can be one piece, and then I'll try and figure out what to do with the front, and I'll probably just put this on the front. So there is a big difference between Helen and Diana, but beer does become something that Diana is passionate about. So it starts out as, you know, necessity, escape plan, etc., and then it becomes something that she's passionate about. Whereas with Helen, it's something she's passionate about and she designs her whole life around. And it's kind of interesting that the one who has I'm going to say more success. I mean, obviously Helen has extreme financial success up to a point. But the person who really is like living their dream, I guess, is Diana, I think. More so than Helen. Because at the end, Helen's just miserable and alone, and she has to sell her company. So to a conglomerate. So the one who is passionate about staying alive, basically, the one who, you know, that's the one who ultimately ends up having the better brewery, making the better beers, you know, and ultimately getting what the sister coveted so much, which is that 100 out of 100 from that food critic guy. You know, it's Diana's brewery that gets the only 100 out of 100 he gives in his entire career, not Helen's. So, you know, she ultimately is the one who wins. You know what I might do is I might put this like here so that I can cover up that stamp that's causing me so many problems. Now, what's kind of interesting about Helen, I thought, is that even when she could make whatever kind of beer she wanted to make, she didn't. She didn't. And in fact, when people are making the kind of beer that she wanted to make, you know, she scoffs at it. Like, it's very, very interesting, you know, that she becomes so kind of calcified in her view of what success is that she loses the artistry and passion. And I'm sure that's one of the author's messages, you know, is that she loses the heart of what she's doing because she becomes so obsessed with just, you know, success as financial success. Whereas Diana is just trying to live, you know, and she ultimately gains this artistry. So, now, if I was going to say, you know, what's the one thing that's kind of like unbelievable about the book, it's probably the guy who runs the brewery. But, you know, all novels have these coincidences. So, but yeah. My assumption is that he, you know, went to talk to the people that they knew in common to let them know that they were employing a thief, and they told him about her life, and then he was, you know, sympathetic. And that we just are meant to, you know, assume that that's exactly what happened, which is fine, you know. But yeah, that's really the main explanation for like why he goes from like so mad to like, here, have a job in such like a relatively short amount of time. So, all right, let's see. But yeah, the beer is kind of interesting. I don't know. I think, and we also don't get Helen's perspective that often. That's another thing. So we really don't always kind of know what Helen is like thinking or feeling about anything in the book. Like that's more up to our interpretation, I think, especially as the book goes on. Like earlier on, we see more of Helen and less of Edith. But as time goes on, we see more of Edith and Diana and less of Helen. So Gretchen says, I love the grannies making the beer, and I wish it had gone on longer to see more of that. And I would have loved to see the two sisters collaborating on one or competing with their own brews. Yeah. Well, and I probably could have had an entire book about, you know, that, and them going to the markets and et cetera, you know, sure. That part of the book was super fun. I guess that's why I was kind of like, miffed is a really strong word, but oh gosh, what am I trying to say? I don't know, just the tone and how sad so much of the book was, I guess. Like, I don't know, I probably would have liked it more if it was just competing breweries or something. Like if both the sisters had grown up on a brewery and one of them left to start a rival brewery when the dad left everything to one brewery. Something more along those lines, I think, is what I was expecting and what I think I would have preferred. But I mean, it's whatever. You know, that's not the book that it was, but I'm just saying I would have been cool with that. But yeah, man, Edith's life too. You know, I think one thing with Edith is, you know, we can talk about how maybe she doesn't need to give as much as she does, but she does give, you know, like she just wants to make pies for the nursing home, even though she could be doing bigger and better things, you know, because she likes them to have nice pie, and you know, she doesn't want them skimping on ingredients. Like, she does have such a big heart. And then when Diana confronts Helen, and Helen's like, well, I suppose my sister told you, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, she didn't tell me anything. But, you know, because Edith didn't badmouth Helen. You know, and she did say at some point, you know, that she believed Helen was probably good inside, and everyone else is like, I don't know, you know. So yeah, Edith was really, you know, quite saintly, honestly. You know, and she suffered a lot, and you know, it was great that she and her friends could have that brewery success too. That was really cute and really fun, you know, and that she got to see her granddaughter have so much success after such a rocky start and things of that nature. So, like, at least Edith had a happy ending before the reconciliation with Helen. If, you know, I mean, I guess we're supposed to assume that there is going to be a reconciliation with Helen. I did like that Agatha just resigned. I thought that was a boss move. So I was really, really happy when that happened. So definitely major points to Agatha, where she's just working at the other brewery for free. I did like, and Helen's just like, ugh. So I did like all of that kind of stuff, for sure I did. But yeah, that was the part that was the fun part, you know. And maybe if we'd gotten there quicker, it might have been better. You know, this book wasn't like, oh, 5 stars, 10 out of 10, you know, for me. And there are some things that maybe if they'd been tightened up would have made me more inclined toward it. But I mean, overall, I enjoyed the book. I don't think it was a bad book, you know, and I don't want to like pick it apart or whatever, but I just, you know, probably could have been better. So I'm just looking for something to stick on this. But yeah, I enjoyed it. Did anyone not enjoy it? And if you didn't enjoy it, what would have made you enjoy it more? And did you think there was too much beer, not enough beer, or just the right amount of beer? All right, so I'm going to put this. Yeah, we did go long stretches without hearing about beer. Yeah, that's true. He would go for long periods of time where nothing beer related was happening. And then all of a sudden it would be like the chapter that I probably struggled with the most is the chapter that starts with her stealing from the brewer and also contains her learning how to make beer. Like that was, well, in general, I thought the chapters were too long in this book. I know chapters are like can be somewhat arbitrary, but seriously, there were times when I was like, all right, okay, okay, this chapter's been going on for a long time. That's been going on because I like to stop because when I have, you know, often I'll have the ebook and the audiobook from the library of a book, and when you get from the library, you know, keeping up in one where you are in the other, usually what I do is I try to stop at the end of a chapter. So I will notice if chapters are very long. And that chapter in particular felt very long, but there were quite a few long chapters. All right, so I'm going to use this little button thing here. And then this will just be journaling on the back. So we'll just call this done, or journaling on the front rather. All right, so there we go. So that's done. Okay, so let's do a recording break. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do a recording break. So we've got that piece done, and then we're going to move on to, in the next part, we're going to be working on, we've now completed this first page and this first section of inserts. So now we're going to be working on this second page. And then after we do the second page, you know, we'll be working on the third page, then the inserts, then the fourth page. Okay, so I'm going to do a recording break here. If you're watching live, just hang tight. Nothing's going to change for you. If you're watching in the archives or on YouTube, just go ahead and go to the next part if it's available. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye now.